Seeing this message right now, it's not by accident. This message found you because something deep inside you resonated with these words, your sister. Maybe your heart skipped a beat. Maybe a wave of emotion washed over you. Maybe you felt a pang of longing, or sadness, or even anger. The relationship between sisters is one of the most complex bonds we experience in life. It's a connection that shapes us from our earliest days, for better or worse. It leaves emotional imprints that affect how we see ourselves and how we relate to others. So many of us carry a quiet ache about our sister relationships. A feeling that something is unresolved, unhealed, or missing. A sense that things should be different than they are. You might speak to your sister regularly but feel miles apart, or you might not have spoken in years. The pain is there either way. This message has found you today because you're ready. Ready to look at this relationship with new eyes. Ready to understand what happened between you. Ready to heal what has been broken, even if you've given up hope that healing is possible. The universe has brought you to this moment because it's time. Time to face the truth about you and your sister. Time to release the pain you've both been carrying. Time to open a door that may have been closed for far too long. Type, I acknowledge this truth, to continue this journey. There is a wound you've been carrying. One that many people never fully recognize or address. It's the sister wound, a unique kind of hurt that comes from this primal relationship. This wound isn't always dramatic or obvious. It lives in small moments, accumulated over years, that shaped how you see yourself and each other. This wound might show up as constant comparison, always measuring yourself against her or feeling measured. It might be a pattern of competition that never really ended after childhood. Perhaps it's a sense of emotional distance that no one acknowledges, or conversations that stay carefully superficial to avoid triggering old hurts. You can feel the effects of this wound in unexpected places. Maybe you struggle with female friendships, with trust, or with expressing certain parts of yourself. Perhaps you find yourself triggered by seemingly small interactions, reacting more strongly than the situation seems to warrant. What's most concerning is how long you've normalized this pain. The sister wound hasn't just appeared recently, it's been influencing your life, your relationships, and your self-image for years, maybe decades. You've adapted to its presence, built your life around it, perhaps even convinced yourself it doesn't matter anymore. But your heart knows differently. Your heart recognizes that this unhealed relationship affects your wholeness. The sister bond, whether close or distant, is part of your story, your identity, and your emotional foundation. And wounds in that foundation affect the entire structure of your life. Type, I recognize the sister wound, to continue. This sister relationship was shaped long before you had any awareness of what was happening. In the family home, roles were assigned and patterns established that would follow you both into adulthood. These dynamics weren't created consciously, they evolved from a complex mix of parental treatment, personality differences, birth order, and family circumstances. Remember how it started? Perhaps you competed for your parents' limited time and attention. Maybe one of you was labeled the smart one, while the other became the pretty one or the athletic one. These seemingly innocent categories became boxes that were difficult to escape. Your sister might have been the responsible caretaker while you had more freedom, or you might have felt burdened by expectations that she never seemed to face. One of you may have received attention for achievements while the other's struggles went unnoticed. One might have been easy to parent while the other's needs were more challenging. As children, you interpreted these experiences with limited understanding. You created stories about what they meant, she's the favorite. I have to be perfect. She gets everything easily. I'm not important. These interpretations became beliefs that shaped your interactions for years to come. The most powerful aspect of these childhood dynamics is how unconscious they remain. As adults, you're still reacting to patterns established decades ago, still seeing each other through the distorted lens of childhood perception, still playing out roles that may no longer fit who you've become. Type I see the origins to continue. Between you and your sister stands an invisible wall. This barrier has been built brick by brick, year after year, through misunderstandings, hurt feelings, unspoken words, and missed opportunities for connection. What may have started as a small fence of normal sibling rivalry has grown into a fortress that keeps you separate even when you're in the same room. You can feel this wall in conversations that never go deeper than surface topics, whether children's activities, or family logistics. You can see it in the careful way you choose your words around each other, or in how quickly irritation rises from seemingly minor comments. It's present in the relief you might feel when a visit ends, or in the anxiety that builds before family gatherings. Over time, communication breakdowns hardened into facts about each other. She always judges my choices. She never makes an effort. She doesn't care about my life. These interpretations became your reality, regardless of her actual intentions or feelings. And she likely carries her own set of facts about you. This wall was built for protection. It shields you from potential hurt, judgment, or rejection. It maintains a delicate peace by keeping difficult emotions contained. In many ways, it's been a necessary structure that allowed you both to function and move forward with your lives. But walls that protect also confine. This barrier that keeps pain out also keeps healing from entering. It preserves old hurts rather than allowing them to transform. Type I want to break down the wall to continue. Here's something that might be difficult to truly accept. Your sister's experience of your shared story is entirely different from yours. Behind her actions, words, or silence lies a reality you may have never fully seen or understood. The sister who seems judgmental may actually be insecure, measuring herself harshly and projecting that same standard outward. The sister who appears distant might be protecting a heart that feels it was never accepted or valued. The sister who seems to have everything together could be drowning in private struggles she doesn't know how to share. Your sister has her own wounds from childhood, her own version of family events, her own interpretation of your behavior toward her. She carries hurts you may not even remember causing, just as you carry hurts she may be unaware of inflicting. She has likely felt misunderstood by you in the same way you felt misunderstood by her. Beneath her defenses, whether they appear as criticism, withdrawal, perfectionism, or indifference, is the same fundamental longing that exists in you, the desire for acceptance, understanding, and authentic connection. The need to be seen for who she truly is, not just the role she was assigned in the family story. Even in the most strained sister relationships, this longing for connection persists. It may be buried under layers of protection, disguised as indifference, or hidden behind walls of anger, but it remains. The bond of sisterhood, no matter how damaged, still exists in the depths of both your hearts. Type I open my heart to her perspective to continue. The distance between you and your sister comes with a price tag that's rarely acknowledged. This disconnection isn't just a neutral absence in your life, it's an active drain on your emotional well-being and spiritual wholeness. Each time you maintain the status quo of polite distance or open conflict, you both lose something precious. You lose the witness to your life who shares your history and understands where you came from. You lose the unique support and understanding that can only come from someone who shares your family experience. You lose the comfort of belonging that comes from authentic family connection. This estrangement affects the entire family system, creating tension during gatherings, forcing others to navigate carefully between you, sometimes even requiring family members to take sides. It creates a model for the next generation about how to handle conflict and relationship difficulties. Most painfully, this disconnection means losing moments that can never be recovered. Birthday celebrations, life milestones, ordinary days that could have been shared, these opportunities for connection slip away, never to return. Time passes, and the possibility for creating shared memories diminishes. The truth we often avoid is that time is finite. None of us know how many days we have to heal these precious relationships. None of us can predict, and it might be too late to say the things we've kept inside, to offer the forgiveness we've withheld, to try again to understand and be understood. Type, I acknowledge the cost, to continue. This may be the most challenging part of our journey together, but it's essential for true healing, acknowledging your own contribution to the relationship dynamic. This isn't about blame or shame, it's about the empowerment that comes from recognizing your role in creating patterns that can therefore be changed. Perhaps you've held on to hurts long after they could have been released, using old grievances as a shield against new vulnerability. Maybe you've judged your sister based on who she was years ago, failing to see how she's evolved. You might have expected her to read your mind, resenting her for not understanding needs you never clearly expressed. Pride may have kept you from making the first move toward reconciliation. Fear of rejection might have prevented you from showing your authentic self. The comfort of familiar patterns, even painful ones, might have seemed safer than the uncertainty of change. You may have projected your own insecurities onto her, seeing criticism in neutral comments or competition where none was intended. You might have assumed the worst about her motivations rather than giving her the benefit of the doubt you'd want for yourself. None of this makes you wrong or bad. These are natural human responses to complex emotional situations. They're protective mechanisms that served a purpose in your emotional survival. Recognizing them isn't about self-criticism but self-awareness, the kind that empowers you to make different choices moving forward. Your contribution to the dynamic means you have the power to change it. Type, I accept my part, to continue. The journey toward healing your sister relationship now comes into view. This path isn't a straight line but rather a series of inner shifts and outer actions that gradually transform the relationship's energy. This healing journey has distinct phases that unfold naturally once begun. It starts with recognition, seeing clearly the patterns and dynamics that have shaped your relationship. Without judgment or denial. This clear seeing creates space for the next phase, compassion, for yourself, for your sister, and for the complicated human journey you've both been navigating. From this compassionate foundation comes the possibility of new communication, not necessarily dramatic confrontations, but authentic expression that comes from the heart rather than reactive patterns. This opens the door to forgiveness, releasing the grip of past hurts not because they didn't matter, but because carrying them no longer serves either of you. The most liberating truth about this healing path is that it doesn't require your sister's participation to begin. The internal work of recognition, compassion, and forgiveness changes the energy you bring to the relationship, which inevitably shifts the dynamic between you. Your transformation creates space for her transformation, though the timing and nature of her response remain her choice. The goal isn't a picture-perfect sister relationship from a greeting card. The goal is authenticity, a relationship based on who you both truly are now, not on roles assigned decades ago or expectations that neither of you can fulfill. Type, I choose the healing path, to continue. The first step on this healing journey is one of the most powerful, releasing judgment. Judgment keeps the wound open, feeding the cycle of hurt and separation. It locks both you and your sister into fixed identities that allow no room for growth or change. Judgment says, she's selfish. She's controlling. She never listens. She always makes everything about her. These rigid characterizations become self-fulfilling prophecies. When you expect to see these behaviors, you notice them more readily and interpret actions through this lens, confirming your existing belief. The freedom that comes from releasing judgment is immediate and profound. When you shift from judgment to curiosity, wondering about her experience rather than assuming you already know her motives, the energy between you begins to transform. This doesn't happen through dramatic confrontation but through a quiet internal shift in how you perceive her. This release of judgment doesn't mean accepting mistreatment or erasing boundaries. It doesn't require you to approve of hurtful behavior or pretend that painful events didn't occur. It simply means being willing to see your sister as a complex, evolving human being rather than a fixed character in your family story. Try this simple practice. When you find yourself thinking a judgmental thought about your sister, gently ask yourself, what might be happening for her that I don't see? What need might be behind this behavior? This curiosity creates a crack in the wall between you. Type, I release judgment, to continue. Compassion is the healing balm that softens the hardened places in your relationship. This compassion must flow in two directions, toward yourself and toward your sister. Both are essential for true healing to occur. Begin with self-compassion. Acknowledge how hard it's been to carry this wound, to navigate this complicated relationship, to try to make sense of family patterns with limited understanding. Place a hand over your heart and say to yourself, this has been difficult. I've been doing the best I can with what I knew at the time. Now extend this same compassion toward your sister. Imagine her as the small child she once was, before roles and resentments solidified. See her vulnerability, her attempts to find her place in the family, her struggles that may have been invisible to you. Recognize that she, too, has been doing her best with her level of awareness and emotional capacity. This compassion doesn't require you to deny your pain or excuse harmful behavior. It simply creates context for understanding. It recognizes that behind every hurtful action is an unmet need, a fear, or a wound that seemed to require protection. Practicing compassion means holding space for both your experience and hers, acknowledging that two seemingly contradictory things can be true at once. You can be hurt by her actions and understand the pain that might have driven them. You can wish the relationship had been different while accepting what it has been. Compassion opens doors that judgment keeps firmly shut. Type, I choose compassion, to continue. The possibility of reconciliation now emerges, not as a fantasy of perfect sisterhood, but as a realistic hope for a more authentic connection. This reconciliation will look different for every sister relationship, depending on your unique history, personalities, and circumstances. For some, reconciliation might mean regular, open communication and a close friendship. For others, it might be more modest, peaceful family gatherings without tension, occasional heartfelt conversations, or simply a mutual respect that replaces old animosity. The form matters less than the quality of the connection, the presence of authenticity rather than performance. The approach to reconciliation requires patience and openness rather than fixed expectations. Begin with small openings rather than dramatic gestures. A text message sharing a memory you both might appreciate. A question that shows genuine interest in her life. A moment of vulnerability about your own experience rather than accusation about hers. These small beginnings create safety for both of you. They test the waters to see if she's ready for connection without risking the rejection that might come from asking for too much, too quickly. They demonstrate your sincerity through consistent action rather than promises or demands. Remember that reconciliation is a process, not an event. There may be steps forward and steps back. Old patterns might temporarily resurface during stress or family triggers. What matters is the overall direction toward understanding rather than the perfection of every interaction. Type I open to reconciliation to continue. One of the most painful realities you may face is that your sister might not be ready for healing at the same time you are. She may not respond to your openings, may reject your attempts at connection, or may seem committed to maintaining old patterns. This is where your healing journey faces its greatest challenge, and its greatest opportunity for growth. Your sister's readiness for reconciliation is not within your control. It depends on her own healing journey, her current life circumstances, and emotional capacity. Her resistance doesn't necessarily mean she doesn't care, it may simply reflect where she is in her own process. In this situation, the invitation is to continue your own healing regardless of her participation. You can release judgments, practice compassion, and forgive past hurts even without her acknowledgement or response. You can set healthy boundaries that protect your well-being while still maintaining an open heart toward the possibility of future connection. The challenge is to manage disappointment without reverting to resentment. When hopes for reconciliation aren't immediately fulfilled, it's natural to feel hurt or angry. Acknowledge these feelings with compassion, but don't allow them to harden back into the old pattern of judgment and distance. Remember that healing isn't linear. Your sister's unavailability today doesn't mean she'll be unavailable forever. By maintaining your own healing journey, you create a standing invitation that she may one day be ready to accept. Type I honor her journey to continue. An essential but often overlooked step in healing sister relationships is grieving what was lost or never existed in the first place. This grief acknowledges the gap between what you longed for and what actually was. It honors the importance of this relationship by recognizing the pain of its limitations. Allow yourself to grieve the sister relationship you wished you had, the confidant, the supporter, the friend who would always be there. Mourn the childhood moments when you needed understanding but received criticism, when you sought connection but found competition, when you offered vulnerability but met with rejection. Grief is not self-pity or rumination on past hurts. It's a natural, healing response to loss that allows emotions to move through you rather than remain stuck inside. When fully felt, grief creates space for new possibilities rather than keeping you trapped in what might have been. Signs that grief is moving through rather than getting stuck include tears that leave you feeling lighter rather than heavier, the ability to speak about losses with sad clarity rather than bitter resentment, and moments of acceptance that come between waves of sadness. This grieving process honors the depth of your sister connection, the fact that it matters enough to cause pain when it falls short. In acknowledging what was lost, you recognize what was at stake, what was important, what your heart truly valued and continues to value. Grief, when fully expressed, doesn't prolong pain, it transmutes it into wisdom and openness. Type I allow myself to grieve to continue. As old patterns dissolve through your inner work, space opens for creating new ways of relating to your sister. These new patterns don't emerge from rigid rules or scripts but from the authentic self you're now bringing to the relationship. The foundation of new patterns is conscious communication, speaking from your own experience rather than making accusations or assumptions about her motives. Practice using I statements that express your feelings and needs. I felt hurt when. Rather than you always. This approach invites connection rather than triggering defensiveness. Create safe spaces for authentic interaction by starting with neutral or positive topics before attempting to address more sensitive issues. Share memories, discuss common interests, or ask genuine questions about her life and perspectives. These positive exchanges build a foundation of goodwill that can later support more challenging conversations. Honor the differences between you instead of seeing them as threats or flaws. Recognize that you don't need to share the same perspectives, priorities, or communication styles to have a meaningful connection. These differences, when respected rather than judged, can become strengths in your relationship. When old conflicts or triggers arise, as they inevitably will, approach them with the new awareness you've developed. Take breaks when needed, resist the pull of familiar reactions. And return to your commitment to see her with fresh eyes. Consistency and patience are essential in establishing these new patterns. One positive interaction won't erase years of difficulty, but a sustained approach of openness and authenticity gradually creates a new relational foundation. Type I create new patterns to continue. Healing in a sister relationship has its own unique markers, signs that genuine transformation is occurring rather than just surface politeness or temporary peace. These signs may appear gradually, sometimes almost imperceptibly at first, but they represent real shifts in the relationship's foundation. Authentic healing is evident when conversations flow more easily. With fewer eggshells to walk on and less anxiety about saying the wrong thing. There's a new ability to disagree without it threatening the entire relationship. Small irritations remain small rather than escalating into major conflicts or lingering resentments. You'll notice being able to see each other more clearly, acknowledging both strengths and weaknesses without the distortion of old projections. You can appreciate her good qualities without denying her limitations, and she can do the same for you. A healed relationship allows both sisters to be genuinely themselves rather than performing expected roles. You can express different opinions, make different choices, and live different lifestyles while maintaining connection. The need for one sister to change to please the other diminishes. This healing creates ripple effects in other relationships. As you practice new patterns with your sister, these same skills enhance connections with friends, partners, children, and colleagues. The healing of this primal female bond often brings unexpected improvements to other female relationships in your life. Remember that a healed relationship doesn't mean a perfect one. Conflicts still occur, buttons still get pushed, old patterns occasionally resurface. The difference is in how these challenges are navigated, with awareness rather than automatic reaction. Type I welcome authentic healing to continue. The healing work you're doing extends far beyond your own relationship, it affects a legacy that spans generations in both directions. Family patterns of connection or disconnection between sisters pass through time, influencing those who came before and those who will come after. Look back at the women in your family history. You may see echoes of your own sister dynamic in your mother's relationship with her sisters, or even in your grandmother's generation. These patterns often replicate themselves unconsciously, with each generation playing out variations on the same relational themes. Now look forward. If you have daughters, nieces, or other young girls in your family, they are watching and absorbing how you and your sister relate to each other. They learn powerful lessons about female connection, conflict resolution, and forgiveness from what they observe between you. Your healing creates new possibilities for their relationships. Even if you don't have children, your transformation influences your family system and the broader community of women around you. By demonstrating that sister wounds can be healed, old patterns broken, and new connections created, you contribute to a collective healing of female relationships. This generational perspective adds deeper meaning to your personal healing journey. The work you're doing isn't just for your own peace of mind or even just for your current relationship with your sister, it's a gift to your ancestors and descendants, a meaningful contribution to breaking cycles that may have caused pain for generations. Type I transform the legacy to continue. As your healing journey progresses, a new appreciation for the unique bond of sisterhood can emerge. This bond, even when complicated or painful, carries a special significance unlike any other relationship in your life. Your sister shares a history with you that no one else fully understands. She remembers the home you grew up in, the parents who raised you, the family dynamics that shaped you both. She knows references, inside jokes, and memories that would require extensive explanation for anyone else to grasp. This shared history creates an irreplaceable connection. Even sisters who have been estranged for years often find that when they reconnect, there's a familiarity that transcends time and distance, a recognition that goes beyond words. The sister relationship can evolve into one of life's most precious gifts when approached with awareness and love. Many women find that in later years, after the competition of youth has faded and the wisdom of experience has grown, their sister becomes their closest confidant, their most loyal supporter, their truest friend. Even if your relationship never reaches this ideal state, you can honor what it is and what it has given you. Every relationship teaches us something essential about ourselves, and the sister bond, with all its complexities, offers some of life's most profound lessons in love, boundaries, forgiveness, and acceptance. The sisterhood journey, with all its challenges, is ultimately a sacred one. Type I honor our sisterhood to continue. As our journey together comes to a close, remember that healing your sister relationship is not a destination but an ongoing process. The insights and practices we've explored are meant to be integrated into your life gradually, with patience and self-compassion. There will be moments of beautiful connection and progress. There will also be times when old patterns temporarily resurface, when the path seems unclear, or when the hope for healing feels distant. In these moments, return to the foundations, release judgment, practice compassion, honor your grief, and remain open to possibilities. Continue growing this relationship by staying curious rather than assuming you know everything about your sister. People evolve throughout their lives, and leaving space for her to be different than your fixed image of her creates opportunity for genuine connection. The healing you've begun ripples outward, touching all your relationships with its wisdom. The skills of authentic communication, boundary setting, forgiveness, and acceptance enhance every connection in your life, creating a legacy of healthier patterns for generations to come. Remember that at its core, the sister relationship contains a simple truth: two souls who shared beginnings, who walked parallel paths through the same family landscape, who carry pieces of the same story. In honoring this connection, you honor a fundamental part of your own journey. Type I am committed to healing to complete this journey. The insights and practices we've explored are meant to be integrated into your life gradually, with patience and self-compassion. There will be moments of beautiful connection and progress. There will also be times when old patterns temporarily resurface, when the path seems unclear, or when the hope for healing feels distant. In these moments, return to the foundations, release judgment, practice compassion, honor your grief, and remain open to possibilities. Continue growing this relationship by staying curious rather than assuming you know everything about your sister. People evolve throughout their lives, and leaving space for her to be different than your fixed image of her creates opportunity for genuine connection. The healing you've begun ripples outward, touching all your relationships with its wisdom. The skills of authentic communication, boundary setting, forgiveness, and acceptance enhance every connection in your life, creating a legacy of healthier patterns for generations to come. Remember that at its core, the sister relationship contains a simple truth: two souls who shared beginnings, who walked parallel paths through the same family landscape, who carry pieces of the same story. In honoring this connection, you honor a fundamental part of your own journey. Type "I am committed to healing" to complete this journey.